So welcome back to my channel. This is Dom and an update on my addiction and also a couple of other painting projects that I've been working on. So showed off last week? I don't know, my last video, the start of my Wars of the Roses project in 28mm. Hashtag I blame Martin. So many people will know, watch the Plastic Crack podcast. Martin, Seventh Son, has been trying to indoctrinate every single person into starting a War of the Roses project. I didn't last very long. I didn't relent very long at all. And as you saw, I took a whole load of figures away with me, Perry box sets, and made them up while I was on holiday, and then have got completely, and I mean completely, addicted in painting them. So you saw a lot of the army was already produced, so I focused my initial forces on the Stanleys, just because they have the ability really to fight on both sides, and also I just love the backstory of them. Any family that manages to survive the War of the Roses, largely until the end at least, intact, and can sort of manage to have a foot in both camps and survive that terrible war which saw so many nobility murdered, executed, exiled, all sorts, was just extraordinary. So I was impressed by the Stanleys for that very reason. Plus they played a fairly pivotal role in the one of the final phases of the Wars of the Roses at Bosworth. So I thought I need to do some cavalry. So this is a unit of 12 heavy cavalry mounted men-at-arms knights Perry set. It's the box set. Now I went with unarmoured horses. In hindsight, I wish I'd put a few with some of the barding on, and the next ones I'm doing I will do, but I don't think it really matters. I spoke to the guru, that is Martin, and he said, you know, they didn't, because heavy cavalry wasn't really that common. Heavy cavalry charges wasn't really that much of a thing in the Wars of the Roses. They tended to move to battle mounted and then dismounted to fight, if they took horses at all. Cavalry charges did happen. Bosworth was one famous example of that, but they weren't common. Generally, the battles were fought on foot. So I thought, well, actually, having unbarded horses makes sense because they're more for transportation. You don't want to put a whole load of plate armour or mail armour or even cloth armour onto a horse if it's just being used for transportation. So that was the theory. Of course, as Martin quite rightly pointed out, painting them with the barding is a lot easier. Anyway, never mind. But that's a nice unit done. Quite pleased with how it's come out. Tried a different basing method. This is using, I think it's called Russian mud. I don't like it as much as the European mud, so I'm not quite so keen on the basing on this unit, but I'm not sure how often I'm going to use cavalry, but it's done and I like it all the same, and it's a nice unit to have. So one cavalry unit done. So next up, this is another unit for the Stanley force. This is a unit of men-at-arms, stroke knights, who have the banner of one of their retainers. This is Lord Grenville. I just thought a bit of variety, something different. Most of the troops are wearing Stanley's sort of retinue colours, the sort of the green and the sort of reddy orange tabards. Again, largely, in fact, I think this unit is exclusively Perry miniature dismounted men-at-arms figures. Yeah, quite pleased with how it came out. Just felt I needed another men-at-arms unit to go with the Stanley brood. So there you go. Nicely came out well. Again, in theme of my armies, as I mentioned last time, muddy, wet fields. That's what I wanted to get the effect of. That these guys are sludging through the mud to get towards the whoever the Stanleys happened to be fighting at this particular time. That's what I wanted, and that's why I've used this Vallejo European mud on the bases, and then sort of pushed tufts and whatnot into there. Some of the bases, this one I haven't finished yet, but it will have some Vallejo clear water on them, just to sort of have that sort of swampy, rain puddled effect. You'll hopefully notice it on some of the other bases more. So that's another unit for the Stanleys. A Stanley. So one of the things I love about the War of the Roses so far in my reading is all the characters, the different personalities that there were on both sides. And one of the ones that just for some reason just got me excited and very interested was this guy. This is Sir Andrew Trollope. Now Trollope wasn't a lord. He was a professional soldier, a knight maybe, who was part of the Calais garrison in those days. Obviously, England had lost most of its northern France possessions, and but there was still a garrison, very strong garrison of professional soldiers based in Calais. And during the early phase of the Wars of the Roses, that force was brought over to England to aid the Yorkists against the Lancastrians, and Trollope was part of that force. Now, that's a sort of non-battle that took place outside Ludlow, one of my favourite places. Maybe that's why I like Trollope. He defected to the Lancastrians, who had, to the king, basically, king and queen, and he crossed over from the Yorkist side and joined the Lancastrians with about 300 men from the Calais garrison. Now, bear in mind, these guys were all veterans. They were all extremely experienced soldiers. Trollope himself was an experienced soldier, and went on to play a vital part in the war effort for the Lancastrians. He was knighted eventually, never really had a retinue, so I've kind of represented him with this group of Beau and Bill men. You can see I've mixed in as well. I've taken a few liberties, so given the fact that Trollope's flag is this green flag with the white stags, I've given a number of his men a sort of green focus, so they got green tunics or leggings or what have you, just to show that they're part of his unit. Some of the others have just got the sort of the white and cross of St George tabards that the English soldiers had in the 100 Years' War, and I just thought that can denote the fact that veterans. Now, this is a mixed bag of figures. There's some Perrys in there, there's a few metals from a range I don't really know, but I just found them. I just mixed them in to show a bit of variety. I've got Trollope here himself with his command group. His secondary standard is actually his Lord Somerset, who he fought under for most of the war before he was eventually killed himself. I just don't know. Trollope just really interested me. Now, I did struggle to do I'm not going to show you a close-up of the tabard of Trollope, because frankly it looks like some demented picture of a dinosaur or something on the front of his chest, but I tried to do it out, and then with a bit of inks and dry brushing, it sort of just blurs out. So from 3 foot it will look fine, but from close up it just looks like someone's coughed on the tunic. But never mind, it's done. So I was going to give him some foot knights and a little command, but Martin made me see sense, because actually Trollope never really had a retinue, so he commanded the garrison troops, and he was also an advisor to the Lancastrians for a large part of the war. Never really had his retainers or anything like that, so probably just a unit of Bill and Beau is enough for him. But however, I did also give him a unit of handgunners. Again, handgunners in the period were professional troops largely. and I thought it was in keeping with the Trollope story that he was a veteran. He was a man in command of veteran troops who'd fought in the 100 Days War. I keep saying 100 Days, 100 Years War, and who trusted him as a commander. So I've done this unit of handgunners. They are actually front rank figures, front rank metal handgunners. There's a Perry officer in the middle. I've done them as 3 bases in skirmish formation. Now I think actually reading the rules it should only be 2 bases of handgunners, but that's fine. I've got another 9 or so handgunner figures, so I'll paint them up at some point, and then they can be 2 or 3 units in total, which will be kind of useful. So yeah, handgunners are kind of fun in this period, and this is my first sort of light infantry stroke skirmish infantry unit. At least you can see a little bit better the basing with the sort of muddy and the water, stagnant water, and a few little rocks in the base. Really pleased how that came out. So that's handgunners. So Martin's been joking with me that I'm only going for War of the Roses characters who are utter bastards, and that's possibly true. This is a case in point. This is a retinue for Henry, Duke of Exeter, who was a character that just instantly drew me as being something interesting. He was, by all accounts, an utter bastard. Nobody seems to have liked him, but he did largely survive the Wars of the Roses, only killed right at the very end when he had swapped sides, and supposedly was killed at the orders of the king by his own men, which says everything about this guy. Was not the most popular kind of bloke. So this is his first retinue. Not quite sure how big I'm going to make this force. I'll probably add some cavalry, but I don't know how many bill and bow units I'll do. This is the first one, obviously. Mixed bag again, Perry's, and a couple of metal figures in there too. From I don't know where they came, but again using that real muddy effect with the basing. Quite pleased with how that came out. And there's a second unit of bill and bow ready to join his retinue. Again, mixed bag of, actually I think this is almost entirely, I can see one metal figure in there. Largely though it's Perry plastics. Again, set out exactly the same way, sort of almost 2 wings of bowmen and a centre of the heavily armoured billman. And they've got Exeter's flag. And then here's the group of men-at-arms or knights for Duke of Exeter. These are definitely a mixed bag. I can see there's a steel fist figure or 2 in there. There's mostly Perry's, but there's also a couple of metals from I don't know where, but based out again exactly the same method. Just sort of making them look dirty and almost war-weary knights sort of slogging their way towards the enemy front line was the effect I'm trying to get. I'm quite pleased how all these units have come out. I think the effect is really good. Looking forward to getting them on the table. So there you go. So two bill and bow and 1 dismounted knight stroke men-at-arms unit for Henry Exeter. So given the fact that Exeter was at one point at least the commander of the garrison of the Tower of London, which was a famous arsenal, I thought, well, he should have a cannon or 2. So I've given him this one. This is one of the Perry cannons, all metal. Really nice little model. Quite enjoyed painting it up, and it's stuck on a slightly bigger base, same width as all the other bases, but slightly deeper, as you can see. And alongside him is the command stand for Duke of Exeter. You can see if you recognise it, he's got the. I'm using the figure here that is one of the Giants in Miniature special edition figures. I just thought he was suitable. He's got a halberd, he looks suitably aggressive, I've used some transfers to get the 3 lions on his chest. Basically, it's the same as this flag, which is his personal retinue flag, or personal livery flag, sorry. And he's got a sort of fishtail standard as well, which is obviously shaking in the breeze. Now, he wasn't a well-liked man, but he was a very feared man. So he's I've done him in black armor, just because that was a thing. It was very expensive armor, as I believe, but I thought it was kind of nice to have the bastard Exeter wearing black armor, wielding a halberd or poleaxe, just to instill fear into the enemy ranks, or his own. So you can see when it comes around, hopefully you can see better the water effect on the base of the cannon. I've sort of put ruts where the wheels would have run through, and you can see, hopefully you can see the sort of the glistening of the water from the Vallejo water effect. I really like this stuff, it's really cool. I've been using it fairly liberally on these bases, just to give that sort of wet, muddy, marshy look. Really cool, really happy with them. So I was reading a book on the Battle of Northampton, and in that they talk about various town militias being part of both sides actually, and I thought, oh, that'd be fun. And I remembered I had these are Crusader metal men. I think they're supposed to be pikemen, medieval pikemen, and I thought I can do them as sort of militia, sort of townfolk called up to help the armies. And I didn't want them to be pike, because I've already got that unit of pike in my forces. So I cut down some long spears and have given them these long spears basically. Now I'm not sure, I can't remember the rules with using long spears, whether you still need to be forward, in a sort of square block, so 4 deep, two wide and 2 deep, or whether I can get away with doing them in a line. I don't know, but I just thought, I remembered I had them, it was something a bit different to paint up from all the bill and bow that I've been doing and the men at arms, so I just thought it'd be fun to do. I'm quite pleased how they've come out, and they could be a useful addition to either side, in the form of just some heavy infantry with spear. So finally, I don't want you to think that I'm completely obsessed with just one thing, even if I am. I also, for a bit of light relief, I guess you need variety, and I'm really enjoying doing these medieval figures. They're great fun to paint, but you do need to have a little bit of variety in your life. I picked up this model of a cannon, Napoleonic cannon, on a sledge, which is supposed to be Cossack artillery. So I think it was from Great Escape Games. They've been doing these sales, selling off some of their old stock, and I picked it up for, it was only about £1.60 or something for the gun, plus 3 crew members, which is 1, 2, 3. I think that was the 3. And I thought that would be actually ideal for that Napoleonic. Actually using it for shakos and bayonets for a Russian winter army. I thought it would actually be perfect to have a cannon on a sledge. So I painted out. I bought a couple of extra, I think the Opple-Cheney figures from Front Rank, because I thought they would sort of look in keeping. Which obviously these 2 guys here should have pikes, but I obviously haven't given them pikes, to make up the 5-man crew that I'm probably going to need for this cannon. And I thought this is ideal. I've used, actually for the first time I used Vallejo, because I'm really into this Vallejo mud. I used the Vallejo snow effect, which is largely what you can see. Unfortunately, when it got a bit close to where I'd done the brown for the thingy, I think Carl from Mezzers Minis was taking a pee out of this picture. I put a picture up of this on Instagram, and he said, "Oh, can I see yellow snow?" And you can see the colour from the brown has started to seep into the snow. I just said it's very, very scary in the snow with all the French around. So forgive them having a little bit of an accident, but yeah, it does look a little bit yellow. So I'm going to have to maybe have another go at touching that up. Bit disappointed actually, but lesson learned, and it's, you know, it's always worth learning, practicing and trying things out, techniques out. But lesson learned. I think I need to let the brown mud dry really thoroughly before I then use the white snow effect over the top. I think it just wasn't quite dry enough, which is a shame. But I sort of did that on purpose. I wanted a sort of kind of blurring of the edges where the mud and the snow mixed, but it kind of didn't work because I got just a bit of yellow around the place. So I'll get in and have a tidy up at some point. But it's a nice model and a bit different, and adds a bit of character to the Russian 1812 winter force that I built. Did I say finally? Okay, this is really finally. I also painted up these, what's it, 2, 4, 6 buildings, 15mm figures. These are, they are plaster. Picked them up on eBay. I thought they'd be ideal for when I play American Civil War in 15mm. I do like my games of 15mm. Black powder, ACW. You'll see examples of the channels and battles I've had with Jono over recent months and years. I really enjoy it as a period, and at 15mm it just seems to work really well. But last time we played, we needed a few buildings and we didn't have enough, so I bought these fellas and just painted them up. In fact, I think I painted them up one Monday on Plastic Crack just to give me something to do, because the lighting where I sit to do the Plastic Crack isn't great, isn't good enough for painting, so being able to just paint something like a piece of terrain is a lot easier. So they're very simple buildings. They'll look fine on the 15mm table, and will work for actually quite a few periods, because they're just wood with stone. I was going to say exhaust chimneys, and yeah, so they should fit quite well with most periods, but certainly that's what I got them for, ACW. So this is finally, even though it's finally, this is another project, another command for the War of the Roses that I haven't quite finished. Well, the figures are finished, the basing's done, but I'm waiting on the standard to arrive in the post. It's taking a little while to arrive, so I can't call it finished until they're attached. So this is going to be a command stand for a new force that I'm pulling together for Lancastrians, which is going to be Lord Clifford, who by all accounts was another bastard, and I don't mean in the literal sense, he just wasn't a very nice man, rumoured to have killed one of the Yorks, and as Martin will have it, was responsible for the defeat at Taunton because of his misplay earlier on in the campaign. I don't know, but I thought he was a colourful character. I've used Perry command figures. I just loved this guy with the axe. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. So I repurposed him, put him in black armour. There's a famous picture of Clifford. It's from years later, Renaissance period, where he is shown wearing black armour and about to kill one of the princes. And I just thought that was perfect, so I've done him on black armour. I think actually on the command stand this guy is supposed to be the officer or the senior lord, and this guy's one of his bodyguards, but I've swapped them around just because I think this guy's so cool. And this one is a Crusader miniature that I'm just using for the standard, because most of the period they had two standards, so I've sort of buried one in the mud here, and the other one is on the horseback. And that will be finished off when the Clifford standards arrive, and I can start working on a command. In fact, I am working on my first command, or my first group of troops for Clifford. He was a lord that was based up in the border regions, and so he was infamous for his very experienced but very colourful units of troops, and I'm just doing one of those, a light cavalry unit. I'll show it later on when it's finished. It's still taking me a little bit of time to finish off, so that will be the next one. So anyway, that's where I've got to. You can see the addiction is strong in me. The figures are churning out, which is kind of very satisfying, but also quite alarming, because I'm just realising how many boxes I'm filling of these figures. When I've sort of had a pause on the War of the Roses, I'll do a little showcase of everything I've painted, because I keep looking at it and think, geez, I've done a lot. I have done a lot. And I know everyone loves to see the whole thing laid out, so it does look impressive. Medieval figures or knights and things. And in fact, any army just laid out en masse always looks really, really cool, I think. So there you go. So I hope you're staying safe. I hope you're staying well. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks for all the comments. If you've got any comments, please put them down below. I know there's a lot of people doing the War of the Roses. Let me know what commands, what lords you're looking to do. And obviously tell us who's to blame, because I think we all know who it is. Martin. Anyway, stay safe, stay well, and I'll see you again soon. This is Dom, signing out.